Hi everyone, welcome to Syntheta seminar. I'll start a little bit about who we are and also our guest, Matt. So as you already know about Syntheta, but I want to mention it again. So Syntheta helps companies and also corporates assist embrace the era of AI, computer vision, and also data management, and also being able to deliver innovative solutions. We know what AI and computer vision and data management is, and with this expertise, we hope to help all corporate and also persons that would like to know and understand more. And I want to introduce our guest, Mats Brodén, which have been working with more than 2 decades with transferring material science to business and society. I will not go into more than that, so I will let Mats explain what that means. So, welcome Mats, and I hope you are doing well. So, you have the mic. Let's start.
All right. Thank you for inviting me, Michael. I will now represent. I have 3 hats in this context. Number 1 is I'm the founder and CEO of Embedded Nano, and now I recently started something called the Nordic Powerhouse, and it's a kind of a platform for discussing blockchain and how we can develop new business models and how we can organize ourselves. And I'm also a partner and co-developer of something called Data Union. And Data Union is also a co-founder of the Nordic Powerhouse. So I will go through a little bit my background, just how I entered the blockchain, say something about Embedded Nano, especially SenseNation ecosystem that we are working on in order to deploy cutting-edge sense technology. And then I will say a little bit about Metaverse Nordic Powerhouse, what it is, and then say something about what Data Union is, and I will end by a showcase in Helsingborg. This is something that we discussed with Syntheta as well as a partner. And I also want to say that some of these things I'm talking about is in a very early phase, but it is happening. But I'm not sure quite how familiar you are with the token economics, etc. But I will go through it, and I mean, if there might be some concept you're not familiar with, and if I'm saying something that you're not familiar with, it's fine with me if you want to interrupt me. Okay, so let's see. How do I? There. If you want to contact me, this is my way you can reach me if you have any questions or would like to join some of the things that we are working on. So, as Michael said, I'm trying to bridge the gap between cutting-edge science and business and society, and lately I'm more and more interested in sensor technology, because when it comes to nanotechnology, it's hard to explain, but most people understand sensors, and of course it's very relevant in terms of connecting sensors and artificial intelligence, machine learning. About 5 years ago, I decided to enter or try out what blockchain is, and my starting point was that I find that the organizational models for transferring knowledge from the scientific community into the business and society, there is room for improvement, let's say that. My personal interest was also about how you can embed light-emitting particles in objects, and by doing that you can use them for track and trace connected to blockchain. This is an ongoing project. So on a meta level, as I said, I'm trying to combine distributed ledger technology, nanotechnology, and organizational innovation. So, and the reason I'm doing this is that I see there is so much knowledge and that could we could open up and deploy in society that is kind of stuck in the models that we are working on at the moment. Okay, this is what I wrote when I was asked to have this presentation, and I mean, all about this blockchain and all. I'm sure you heard about cryptocurrencies and prices and all that, but for me, it's about organization, how we can coordinate ourselves, and there are new asset classes, digital asset classes, and one of them could be seen as these data unions that I will talk about. And again, there's so much sensing capacity in the scientific community that I hope we can propel the application of that. I mean, in companies like Syntera or other companies that can turn it into something commercial. Here are some questions, that we are addressing. The first question is, should the data how should it be governed, centralized or decentralized? And this is a very big issue. I mean, it's sometimes a bit challenging for big companies, and because, well, should we as citizens, when we are sharing data, should we also have a say and should we also have rewards? And I know, Michael, you are talking about who should get access to data, algorithm, and insights. I mean, it's also a question, how do you control who is getting access to your data and your algorithm and your insights? There is a need of some form of interface where you are in control of access. Very quickly, some concept. Web 2, a short version of that is that companies like Facebook, Apple, etc. They are mainly centralizing data, and we are used as data ants. Web 3 is going towards a more decentralized data, co-ownership, and one could say it's more user-centric than the Web 2. And then we have the concept of Metaverse. I mean, on one hand, it's a kind of experience design that when you talk about augmented reality, virtual reality, etc. But my real interest is as an economical powerhouse where you execute contracts. And some also talk about Metaverse is a kind of interface between the physical and the digital. And from my point of view, light-emitting particle is the perfect example of something is both digital and physical at the same time. And then data union, it's all about how we can collaborate around a data set. And there are a lot of things that you can do with that. You can share revenues, you can mitigate risk, you can pool together data and get horizontal access. And these data unions are run like, it's called DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations. And one thing that I think will be an important tool is something called data NFTs. And I will come back to that. The big picture, I mean, what we're entering now, I mean, it's not new in the sense that someone hasn't thought about what we now call tokens and cryptocurrencies. This is a Nobel laureate, Friedrich von Hayek, who said this already in 1984, that, I mean, we have what we call money is frozen in a very primitive form, and we need to open it up in order to experiment. And I think this is really what we are experiencing right now, a new phase. What can money be? And it's not only me saying that this Metaverse is a big thing. And I mean, I don't know exactly how much money will be spent, but there are many reports about people are entering the Metaverse, and it's been around for a while, but it's picking up its pace. This is one way that I see it, that there are infinite number of potential asset layers that we, through digitalization, can establish. And in general, we are giving away a lot of data, I mean, local data, and then it's stored and used by big companies like Google, Facebook, etc. But that, I think that this is just a starting point. We can create or establish these digital asset layers, as I call them. There's no limit how many assets there are. So this was a slide I did 8 years ago or something like that, when I was very frustrated how hard it was to go from the non-laboratory proof of concept to proof of business. And everything I'm doing now with the blockchain, one way or another, relates to how do we bridge this gap. And in that case, I talked about it's a lack of imagination. I would say it's more that we don't have the organizational models in order to stimulate this process. Some years ago, we started what I call Sense Nation ecosystem, and the idea with that is that we want to get companies get access to cutting edge sensing technology. The problem usually is that when we are doing a project with sense technology, it's very much locked up in point-to-point contract with big companies, and we don't even are allowed to talk about it. I find it very problematic because it's not only big companies that can make use of these things. So this mission was a little bit about what can your machine tell you, because through this sensor we can extract an enormous amount of information about the machine or even a plant that we can use for instance for making predictions. So this project started together with a big company, and it was about how can we extract data from inside the machines, and then how can we apply AI and machine learning. And this is a kind of ongoing project. And Sense Nation, the purpose for this is that, I mean, it's more informal ecosystem. It's not a business case. It's that anyone that are interested in getting access to this technology can join. And together, if we are smaller companies, together we can get access to advanced sensors that usually only big companies can get access to. So this is, anyone interested in joining, just let me know. So when we do this sense, in a sense exploration, it's very easy. I see someone have a supply of some form of technology. I try to identify someone that has a demand, and then we set up a joint exploration space. And this is the very easy model. I mean, we do a test case and see what kind of data can we get and what can we do it, and then we'll see if we will move on with this. This is an example of a sensor that I think has an enormous potential, and this was done in collaboration with the International Nano Laboratory, and my co-founder of Embedded Nano, Lars Motelos, is the Director General for this laboratory, and we have done one exploration with this, and it's really about that we see anomalies inside machines. And sometimes we don't even need to apply machine learning or artificial intelligence, because you can actually see it. And what it does, it picks very weak electromagnetic fields inside the material. And by doing that, you create a kind of a dynamic real-time identity of a material system. And then you can start learning about this machine and make, and in a way make predictions how it will behave in the future. And that is something I find very interesting personally, because that's it has a huge value, and sometimes we call it predictive maintenance. But this is one example of a sensor. So I sometimes call it that we're making weather reports inside machines, material system, and these sensors is non-invasive, so you can pick the data outside the machine. Another thing that we found out through these processes that you get a kind of in-depth, high-resolution, vertical data, but sometimes you also need to get horizontal access because you can see a data event inside the machine. But if you don't have access to other data sets that tells you what triggered this data set, you can't get the insights you need. This is another example of a project that I find interesting. It's we can actually pick, or the scientists. This is all Ricardo Freire from INL in Portugal, but they can pick. Every time our heart beats, it generates an electromagnetic field or kind of identity. So we could pick that data and make something out of it. It's not as easy when you work with metals, etc., but it's possible. And in the Metaverse Nordic Powerhouse, we are planning an event that we are called Absorb Surprise, that we will talk about these things, and I will invite scientists to talk about this. So if anyone here is interested in this, you are welcome to join. I haven't set the date yet, but this is an area where I believe there is an enormous potential. Okay, so Metaverse Nordic Powerhouse. So in order to work with these things connected to what is called blockchain or distributed ledger technology, I felt that there's a need of a platform for exchange information about these things, because people have a need to talk about how they should approach this new field. So this platform is about, I will help companies to set up what I call local data units. It doesn't have to be local data unions, but it's a place where I support we call it Ignite, this data unit, help them to identify what could become a data union. So this is my core job at the moment. And then also support the transition from so-called Web 2 companies to Web 3, because it's actually a big thing, and it changes the business models. So there's a lot of things you need to talk about before you make that journey. And I'm also building up a kind of a talent pool community with people that knows a lot about blockchain and Web 3. Another area is that when you're running these data units, you don't have a kind of the same kind of board, company board or steering committee. You have something called DAO governance, and I will come back to that. And I'm also building up a token investment pool, and that is with people that are interested in investing in token economics. And another thing there is that if you get tokens, you also get influence, but then in some cases you need support in order to understand how should I use my influence. And then we will do a lot of seminars, etc. And then we are planning to set up a kind of a meeting with the Nordic investor after the summer. And another thing we are setting up is this what we call data NFTs. And I'm not sure if you know what NFTs are, but it's called non-fungible tokens. And in this case, when I say data NFTs, that you can embed rights or micro licensing in the NFT. And this is a project that just started. We will have workshop around these things, and we are trying out ideas around this. And I think this is something very interesting to anyone that want to grant access to their database through emitting data NFTs. I'm here trying to find a way of explaining what a data NFT can be with something that already exists. And one thing is that you have this in English forever stamp, in Swedish valörlösa frimärken, because it's a kind of an interesting case, because you're buying a future utility. I mean, you're buying a service in the future, and you decide when you want to activate it. And I think that data NFTs will be something similar like this. Okay, token economics, the central ledger tech. I mean, there are a lot of buzzwords here, and I don't think you need to know all of them. I think the most important thing is that there's a potential to scale trust, and you use crypto in order to gain trust in the system. It's also for me about game theory, that you can optimize an ecosystem, and you can use tokens and as a kind of a way of optimizing. It could be a collaboration, and then also how you nudge people to go in a certain direction. And my personal interest in this case is about, as I said before, predictions or oracles about what potentially could happen with material systems. So when it comes to DAO, the decentralized autonomous organization, I mean, it's about how you govern a token ecosystem, and there are things already running about these in DAOs. There's several working, and I've been part of in one for 2 years, and it's an ongoing project. It's like no one really knows how this should be run. So one can say people are trying out different ideas how to govern this token economy, and the idea is it's community driven. So and also when you have a token economy, usually you have a kind of a treasury of tokens, and you use this treasury of tokens to hand out grants to projects that you find is important in order to develop the value or develop tools for the token ecosystem. And there are problems with this DAO because the legal status of a DAO is not at the moment clear. So you have to find a bridge between traditional legal persons and the DAO. And I would say that no one really knows how to handle this at the moment, but that usually people are establishing these a limited company and that then run the DAO. Writing, I mean, when you're working on a DAO, you're in a way you're writing a constitution or playground rules. So. And you do it as you go along. And I personally find this very, very interesting. So about token attributes and properties, I mean, it's sometimes hard for people to understand that a token is not, or crypto is not only a kind of a currency in the same sense that what we call money is the storage of value, medium of exchange, or unit of account. It's also, you can embed influence, and you can program these tokens, so you can nudge or run. I mean, you receive the token depending on what kind of smart contract you have embedded in the token. And this, I think, this is a game changer, that you actually can program or design these tokens. This is an example of a DAO and token ecosystem. It's called Ocean Protocol. That's how I got engaged in my first DAO. And there is through Trent, who is the co-founder of Ocean Protocol. So I engaged in this community, Web3 community, and then I also got an understanding of what's called a Web3 culture, that it's very open, it's very inclusive, and when you are reaching out, they try to help out. So this Ocean Protocol was my first project, and this project we received tokens and to start up, and this is something that I'm still working on. And the basic idea is that in every city or a block or that there is a potential hidden asset, as I said before. And through some of these sensor technology, we can measure out an hidden asset layer. So one way of looking at it is that we are doing some form of land survey in what is sometimes called the metaverse. And this is really what I'm working with at the moment. And then through Ocean Protocol, I got in contact with Mark Siebert and Robin Lehman, who are the founders of Data Union. And I'm now a partner of this. And they are, as I said before, they are also co-founders of Nordic Powerhouse. And it is about enriching data, and it's about how one can work together doing these things, because we think we have to find better models to share data, because it's very hard for one entity or one company to open up all the commercial value in a data set. So we think, or we know that we have to find better ways of working together. For me, there are kind of two layers. Layer number one is the social protocol. How do you engage people? How do you make people interested to join a data union? And that's, I would say that is my main task. And then you have the technical protocol, and that I need data union and the whole network of people with the skill set in order to mirror a kind of a social engagement, because it starts with that people want to work together with something, and then you have a kind of a set of blueprints or protocol that can support the way people want to work together. So this is it is data unions is as a service, one could say, for also to create AI ready data, because I mean, I'm not an AI expert, but the more I work with it, the more I realize it's not only about data sets. You have to annotate the data in order for it to have a value. And this is another example of a kind of a data union that we are talking about setting up, and it's how you can train your avatar to give you insight in what kind of cosmetics you need and what you don't need, because in this case there's a lot of waste in the cosmetic industry, and we think through AI and data we can reduce the waste in this business field. This is, I mean, when you're working with token economics, I mean, when you set it up, these three things is what you need to think about. First of all, I mean, you have an idea of where should the token go? What kind of who should get what? One part should be perhaps for the treasury, that some part for the founders, and some part for development, etc. So that's something you have to think about before you set up a token economics ecosystem. And then if you have sponsors, you have to also tell them what are you going to use the investment initially to build up the capacity for running this ecosystem. And then the third thing is that you have to think about how should this be governed, who should get influence and how. And these things needs to be, I mean, they need to be tailor-made for every single token economics. This is something that we will set up a meeting about, how you can be part of a data union and how you can invest in data union tokens. I mean, there are three parts here. One is the general data union token, and every data set that you set up will get their so-called local or niche token. And then there is a third part, is about how you create insights, and usually that is if you engage data scientists, how they can get, partly they can also, every algorithm can become a token ecosystem where you co-own the algorithm. But we will have a meeting about this after the summer, about this whole data union setup. Usually when you're working on these things, I mean, in initial thing, when you get investment, you work with, this is called a simple agreement for future tokens, and that in a way it's about that you get an option to buy when the tokens go live. You can buy them for extremely reduced price, and again, this is something that we will bring up in our meeting after the summer. And now to the specific case that we are working on, that we're also discussing with Syntheta. It started as a discussion about how can we develop a more trusted space of public spaces. And the initial idea is that can we make it possible for women to visit a public space virtually before they visit it physically, and by doing that they can get an idea if is it very crowded, has there been a lot of activity, or has there been activities that it potentially is dangerous, etc. So these are things that we are working on at the moment, and the company we are working with is called Danfo, and they are a producer of public toilets. So we call this data union Play Safe, and this is a kind of a test bed, proof of concept, but the whole idea is to create urban safety and convenience. That's the main goal of this Play Safe data union. And for Danfo, I mean, very practically, through this data they can reduce cost, either themselves or their customers. And that is connected to, I mean, predictive maintenance, but it could be things like that. Do we need to clean this toilet or not? Do we need to send out a kind of security, and then you can reduce the cost for these things. The other thing is that they will get access to a digital resource so they can continuously develop services and products. Because for a company like Danfo, I mean, this is a very big transformation, digital transformation. I mean, you need a lot of skills and you need a lot of resources in order to do these things. So for them, it's a way of joining forces in order to secure future access to data or insight that they need in order to develop their services. But they not only that, they potentially also get a stake in this asset class that we call Play Safe. And then of course it's a way of creating a relationship with the local authorities or local companies, because potentially this Play Safe, anyone that are participating can also get rewarded in this data union. So in this case, we are talking with a lot of different sensor companies, and that we are in dialogue now how to deploy these technologies, and through my German partner, we are discussing also a LiDAR technology that we can also put on for instance, the public toilet. And then air quality, heart and breathing sensors. There are also biophobic surfaces. There is a company that has a COVID detection sensor from Australia. So there are a number of sensors that we are looking into in order to embed them in this Play Safe data union. So this is kind of a way of trying to illustrate what we are doing. So we are sensing a lot of things in the toilet, and then we collect data, we store data, we analyze, and we communicate, and then we the idea that we can make certain kind of predictions. By doing this in going back to the hidden asset, I mean, we are creating a asset layer, a local asset layer, that if we create an environment with greater safety and convenience, it has it potentially can heighten the value of the real estate in the area. And we are talking with PropTech companies, and they do understand these things. So this is my kind of a dashboard when I'm thinking about these things. So in this case, I have an igniter for this data union, and it's down for, because someone needs to start the process so we can start working on these things. And then I'm bringing in the suppliers. It could be a Web 2 company, it could be sensor companies, it could be AI, etc. So we can bring in services like collecting the data and processing the data and work together. So potentially all the suppliers can also be a partner in the asset play safe. So they can, I mean, initially they get paid by so-called fiat money, but they can get paid also by having a share in this asset. And also, because when we are building up this infrastructure, we deploy it in Helsingborg, but it can be, I mean, that same structure can be deployed in Frankfurt or Amsterdam or wherever. So you also become a partner in this asset. And then on the demand side here, we have Helsingborg, in this case Helsingborg municipality, but we're also talking to local businesses, etc., how they can support building up this local asset. And one thing is also when we are picking data, right now we are picking data from inside the building, and we already know when we see the data events, we know some of the things that what is happening, but we also need a support locally to annotate the data, because locally they know much better than we can what actually happened. And in this older structure, so my job is to the bottom here, the enabler curator. So we are setting up the kind of infrastructure for doing these things. So we will not be we will not dominate this asset. We will support building it up, but there will be a number of stakeholders in this asset. So this is almost up and running. I will enter this phase with the token, etc., but we haven't started it yet. All right. I just want to say that we have developed a kind of an annotation app. So we will provide with an annotation app so people can annotate data events. But this needs to be worked out for this particular play safe data union. All right. I think I said most of what the things I was planning to say. So, I mean, I have more slides, but could we make a break there and see if there are any questions?
Thank you, Mats. So we are open now for questions. You can just write it in chat. Anyone that would like to ask. Yes, I have maybe one question which you have already touched upon, is regarding this having the NFTs created. How do you guarantee the security, kind of? I know it's a more detailed question, but just have a small input about it, and who is owning it, because I understand you also mentioned that, but I think it's good to repeat it once more. Who is owning the data that we are sharing, and who can decide on who to share with or not, etc.
Yeah, I know I mean, this is a big thing for most companies. So that I'm talking to, I mean, they are willing to share the data, but at the same time, they want to be in some position where they are in control. So what this is very early phase, but what I think the data NFTs can do is that you can use it as a way of whitelisting who should get access to what. So if you own a data set, you will have a dashboard where you decide, and then there are tools for if someone wants to get access to your data set, you have to approve it. But these things is, I mean, since I'm not a technical guy, I'm a little bit hesitant to answer your question, but I understand your question, and I'm confident that these issues will be solved by this kind of interface with data NFTs.
Yes.
So I think the question you ask, I think this is a typical question for when we set up a workshop about data NFTs.
Mm. Yes. In general, when you share the data, which we normally do in our life every day, more or less, this gives us a way of really understanding what the data is taking, in which direction, and who is owning it, and why do they look at it. Yeah. And I think this is a good possibility also. When you own your data, you can also make a business around it, which means that you can earn a little bit of money if necessary. And this is the big thing here. And I think this is the future, of course, for any kind of company that is thinking of going further to digitalize all kind of data. As I understand, it's still in progress to work with this kind of data. But what do you think about, I mean, what kind of specific data it is? Is it always talking about sensor data, or can it be all kind of information that you can share with you if you would like to?
I mean, for me, there's a distinction between, I mean, if you're picking data from people or machines. I mean, if I take on a personal note, I mean, I have a folder called digital maps, and I have a lot of MRI scan and a lot of data, and I would be willing to open up that folder if I could control who used it, if I get insights back. And also I would be willing to do, if companies are using my data, I also will get some form of reward in terms of a token in a data union. That would give me incentives to share my data. But I also want to, I mean, in that case, I would also want to know, when can I opt out? If I don't want to be part of it anymore, how can I stop it?
Yeah.
But I mean, it's very hard to answer this question, because I think it very much depends on a specific situation where you have specific policies that you have to develop. In a way, you embed a data policy inside a data NFT, as I see it.
Yeah. So could you maybe share interesting coming areas that would be of interest to look into this furthermore, like paintings, other interesting objects?
You mean, did you say paintings?
Yeah.
I mean, in a way, I mean, the one that I show you, this part of this, it's called, it's a company that I'm talking about, the Metaverse, is called Beauty Click. I mean, in a way, what we are thinking about there is also that you can take pictures, and then you can use a generative algorithm and create something that could be perhaps called art, that transform a data set into something that represent the data sets. I know a lot of people are working with this. Whether it's art or not, I don't know. but it's called generative art. So that's an area I know a lot of people are working on. But as I see it, it's kind of a represent. You use the data so for developing some form of visualization of that data set.
Yeah. Interesting. So any finishing words, Matt, before we summarize?
Yeah. As I said before, I mean, everyone is invited to be part of this. I mean, but it's, one has to see it as an exploration, and it will have an influence on your business models, for sure.
Yeah, that's for sure, and a very important thing. And this is the way we are going towards. I mean, yes, as a business. Very good. Let's summarize. Thank you, everyone who have listened today. To Matt and also Teda. Thank you very much, Matt, for this interesting seminar. If anyone have any questions or thoughts, we can of course share the contact information to Matt, and then you can contact him directly. So anyone who would like to join, please just go into our webpage, sinteda.com, and you have all the information there. If you would like to contact us for anything else, we are also available for sure. Thank you, Mats, again, and we keep in touch.
Okay, have a
thank you.
long summer.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.